I will never forget that day. Unlike the calm and familiar daily life I was used to, everything changed in an instant. That morning, I woke up as usual, made myself a cup of coffee, and stood at the window watching the world outside. I was 59, but inside I always felt younger. I didn't want to accept the reality of aging. I took care of myself, exercised regularly, and every time I looked in the mirror, I tried to see in the reflection that I was still full of energy and attractiveness. But there was an emptiness inside me that nothing could fill. His name was Ethan. He worked as a courier. Every time I saw him, I had a strange feeling of liking him, but at the same time something inexplicable. He was 23 years old, and perhaps it was his youthful energy that attracted me. For the past few months, I had been relentlessly ordering books, home decor, and sometimes completely unnecessary items online, just to hear the doorbell ring and see him. I convinced myself that these feelings were misplaced, but my heart started beating faster each time. That afternoon, as I was driving home, I noticed Ethan delivering packages in the neighborhood. He was passing by on his scooter, but suddenly his tire skipped, and he fell right in front of me. "Ethan!" I exclaimed, and my heart pounded harder. I dropped my bag and ran to him. His knee and elbow were badly scraped, and I could see the pain on his face, but despite that, he was smiling. "Emma, it's okay. It's nothing," he said, though his voice shook a little. "Don't talk nonsense," I replied firmly. "You're in pain. Come over to my place. I'll take a look." He hesitated at first, but my insistence left him no choice. Once inside, I sat him down on the couch and brought out the first aid kit. As I began to treat his wounds, my hands trembled slightly, but I tried to keep my cool so he wouldn't notice. I couldn't help but notice his young, energetic look, but there was a maturity in his gaze that surprised me. "I'm sorry for making you feel uncomfortable, Emma," he said with a smile. "Really, it's nothing to worry about." I grinned, trying to sound stern, but it ended up being a smile. "You're in pain, and I'm supposed to just walk by so it doesn't happen." As I was putting a band-aid on his arm, our fingers accidentally made contact. That fleeting gesture made the silence between us even deeper. "Emma," he began quietly, his voice sounding hesitant, "I didn't expect you to be so kind. Usually people just want to get their packages and leave quickly." I looked at him, and something changed inside. "Ethan, you're not just a delivery guy. I see how you treat people, how considerate you are. And being around you gives me a sense of life that I haven't felt in a long time." I confessed, feeling the blush flood my cheeks. I couldn't back down now. There was something new in Ethan's eyes, a certainty and something inexplicably appealing. Slowly, he leaned closer, keeping his gaze on me. He said then, "the place where I live now is a long way from work. I get tired of traveling every day. I've been thinking about moving closer for a while now, but I can't afford the prices." When he said that, I felt a strange excitement. I realized that I could help him, and the thought filled me with an unexpected sense of joy. I said softly but firmly, "Ethan, I have a small apartment not far from my house. It's not rented out yet. If you want, you can move in there for a reasonable price. It'll be easier for you that way." Ethan looked at me in surprise. "Really, Emma? You don't have to be so kind," he said with disbelief in his voice, but I had already made up my mind. I knew in that moment that I was in for a change, and I wasn't wrong. The next morning, I saw Ethan pull up in a big truck with two friends, moving his stuff into the apartment. I stood at the window and watched him haul the heavy boxes. I could feel the energy in his movements, the cheerfulness. After a while, I picked up a thermos of coffee and walked over to them. "You must be tired," I said with a smile. "I'm inviting you to dinner. Let's relax and enjoy a good meal." Ethan and his friends thanked me, but he replied, "Emma, that's so nice of you, but my friends have to go home." I felt slightly annoyed, but I didn't show it. When evening came, Ethan came in alone. Seeing him on the doorstep, I had mixed feelings of surprise and slight excitement. "Where are your friends?" I asked. He shrugged and smiled slightly. "They had to leave and couldn't stay, but I didn't want to leave you alone tonight." His words sent a warm wave through me. Over dinner, our conversation became more explicit. The slight effect of the wine made our conversation more personal. "How much time I've wasted," I sighed. Ethan listened intently, his eyes full of understanding. "Loneliness is hard at any age," he replied. "But you, Emma, your home, your care, even the way you look, there's so much warmth in all of it. You're so beautiful. It seems unfair that you live alone." His words caught me off guard. I couldn't remember the last time someone had spoken to me like that. My heart beat faster. I tried to pull myself together, but our gazes met again and again, lingering a little longer each time. There was something between us that was impossible to ignore. The air between us became electric. "Emma, is this really what you want?" Ethan whispered Ethan, his voice full of determination. I barely audibly whispered, "Yes." That night I realized that something new was ahead of me, and there was no point in resisting it. I looked grown up and charming, and at that moment Ethan gently placed his hands on my shoulders, helping me onto the bed. His gaze was fixed on mine, and his hands slid gently to my waist. Excitement and joy overwhelmed me. When I opened my eyes, I saw Ethan beside me, his breathing calm, and his cheeks slightly flushed. A happiness I hadn't experienced in years swept over me. I missed that feeling of warmth and closeness. Ethan sighed softly, his breath touching my skin. "Emma," he began, meeting my gaze, "let's go away together to a quiet town by the sea. Just you and me. What do you say?" His words ignited a new fire in me. "A vacation sounds amazing," I replied with a smile. "But I have a feeling it's going to be more than just a trip." Ethan laughed softly, brushing a strand of hair away from my face. "No, Emma. This is just the beginning." In that moment, we both realized that this trip would be more than just a vacation. It would be a new chapter in our history, an opportunity to strengthen a bond that was just beginning to blossom.